Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by good friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. Dan here with you as always. A couple housekeeping notes. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating if you could, please, and a positive review so others can find the podcast. Also, leave us a voicemail or send us a text on the Man Cave hotline. That number is in the podcast description, along with checking out the Swag Cave over there for your apparel, podcast apparel, show apparel, other apparel needs from Resonance Branding Company. So we got college football. We're going to talk some Brewers baseball. Brandon and I got a top 5 coming at you. Top 5 plus college rivalry trophies. But we begin this episode of the podcast talking Packers versus Lions. Big time Thursday night game. Not too often do we get matchups like this for a Thursday night football game when you've got Packers and Lions. And you got the Lions as the top seed. Packers, just a couple games back. Two of the best in the, not only just in the conference, but I would argue two of the best in the entire league. Going at it, division rivals. We call it division rivals. We call it division rivals, I think. How do we see this one playing? What are the key matchups? What are the keys to victory? These two teams have met once already, just about a month ago, where the Lions visited Lambeau Field and picked up the 24. Is it 24-10 victory? So. But Packers looking, 24-14, excuse me. I said 24, 24-14. That was when the Lions had that pick six right before the half. It was 17-3 entering halftime at that point. Packers tried to claw their way back into it. Defense, kind of locked it down afterwards. Didn't allow a touchdown or didn't allow any scoring in the fourth quarter in that game. Just an early touchdown in the third. But Packers weren't able to claw back out of that. Jordan Love was still coming back, dealing with the groin injury and such, but seems like he's healthier after the bye week and after about a month in that. So how do we see this one playing out here? How do we see this going out here? Quick, as you know we usually do, we'll kind of preview where these two teams rack up offensively, defensively across the National Football League. Well, you have two of the top 3 offenses going up against each other. The top offense in terms of yards per game in the entire league is the Baltimore Ravens, who are the only team averaging over 400 yards per game, 422.5 to be exact. Second is the Detroit Lions at 395.2. Third, the Green Bay Packers, 382.9 yards per game. So you've got the number 2 and the number 3 offense in terms of total yards going at it for tonight. Detroit and Green Bay both a top 10 in terms of passing yards per game. Detroit is averaging 240.8 yards through the air. Green Bay 234.3. Rushing yards, Detroit with the edge too, but they're just one spot above Green Bay. So both top 5 in the league in rushing. Detroit is the fourth best in terms of yards per game, 154.4. Green Bay, 5th, 148.5. And points per game, though, a little bit of a discrepancy here. Both top 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, yep. Green Bay's 8th at 20, was it 8th? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah. 26.5 points per game, but Detroit is number 1. Number 1 in the league in points per game. The only team that is averaging more than 30 points per game. They are averaging 31.9 points per game. Those are the offensive numbers. The defensive numbers, do they tell a different story? Detroit's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So they're about 10th in terms of yards, defensively yards allowed per game, 320.3. Green Bay, a couple slots behind them. They're in the top 15. They're 325.5 yards allowed per game. When we break it down to passing yards allowed per game, with this, you've got Detroit's near the bottom third of the league in terms of passing yards allowed per game, 226.8. Green Bay, a little bit higher, maybe more middle of the pack, 217.3. Now, I would argue this doesn't tell the whole story, okay? This does not tell the whole story because I do feel like what factors into some of these numbers too, when you look at it, especially defensively, is, okay, you've got the number one scoring offense with Detroit. And then you look at their defensive numbers and it's like, okay, they're bottom third in passing yards allowed. Well, a lot of teams are playing a little catch-up, right? We know Detroit can score a bunch, and they jump out to leads. So in turn, teams have to throw a little bit more. That doesn't mean necessarily, Detroit's bottom third in passing yards allowed per game. There must be opportunities to throw the football. Be careful when you got Joseph back there who's, league leaders in interceptions. You got Branch as well. So that doesn't tell the whole story. So don't just assume like, Jordan Love could throw today. Be careful. Don't just assume that. Rushing yards allowed per game, and it's kind of the same here. Maybe a little bit here too, but Detroit's defensively just allowing 93.5 yards per game. 93.5 yards per game. Green Bay also top 10, 106.6. Again, that for me tells you, especially when you look at Green Bay's last couple games, Miami and San Francisco, they didn't run the ball a whole lot because they were trying to get out of the hole. They dug themselves in a hole. Green Bay was able to score early and put up some points. So teams had to throw a little bit more. Same here with the Lions. Not trying to discredit how good their defenses are, or maybe how good their run defenses are, run defense actually is. I think they have been playing better, specifically on the Green Bay side, but it doesn't tell the whole story. Points per game, Detroit, second best in the league, 16.9 points per game. 16.9 points per game allowed defensively. The only team better than them is the Chargers. Green Bay, meanwhile, 2, 4, 6, 8. So they're 10th. They're tied with the Bears, allowing 20 points per game. So those are just some of the numbers. Numbers where they're at in terms of the rest of the league team-wise and such. One, because it's going to be, I think, a key matchup or a key to victory, for the Packers is, red zone. We've been talking about red zone for a long time, for at least the last few weeks here. And Green Bay has gotten better in the last few weeks. I mean, they were towards the bottom. I mean, you're talking late 20s in ranks when you talk about red zone offense coming away with touchdowns. Green Bay has climbed up to 15th. In fact, in their last three, if you just break it down by their last three games, they've been the fifth best in the entire league. But Detroit's pretty darn good, too. Whenever they get to the red zone, they're coming away 66% of the time with a touchdown. And in their last three games, too, 71.43%. That's your red zone offenses, okay? Now, what about defense, right? What about defense? Opponents, red zone defense. How good are these teams? Detroit's really good. They're the second best in the league, 41.94%. 41.94%. Chicago is the only team that is better than them. And their last three games, 25% allowed. 25% allowed. But the interesting part here, if you want to break it down a little bit more, they're worse at home. Detroit's 52.94% red zone defense compared to 28.5% on the road. When you look at it from the home side of things, Detroit's about middle of the pack there. So This is a good test for this Packers red zone offense that has been getting better these last couple weeks, coming away with touchdowns instead of settling for field goals. You got to test now on the road against Detroit, where Detroit, second best, but based off the averages, actually, they're worse at home compared to when they are on the road. Green Bay, meanwhile, going up against a very good Detroit offense in the red zone. Right now, 20th in red zone defense. I bring up red zone numbers a lot because I think in a lot of these matchups, and specifically for tonight's matchup, we could see a game where maybe touchdowns are at a premium, or maybe it gets into a little bit of a shootout. Regardless, you got to score points, and you got to score touchdowns if you want to beat a team like Detroit. That's why I bring up these red zone numbers. And you got to try to slow down Detroit from not, blowing the doors off early in this game. I think red zone is going to be incredibly important both offensively and defensively tonight for Green Bay. Coming away with touchdowns. Coming away with 6. And hopefully the extra point there too. And not settling for field goals. You look at both of these teams too, staying on the defensive side with this one. You look at 2 safeties in this game that have been, they've been turnover machines, right? Joseph on the line, Xavier McKinney on the Packers side, obviously. But these are teams, when you look at turnovers so far this season, and turnover differential, both Green Bay and Detroit are top 10. Green Bay is +9. Detroit is a +8. Green Bay has 11 interceptions this year, but Detroit has 14. In fact, Green Bay's got 12 fumble recoveries. And that's tops, right? In the league, tied with Pittsburgh over there. So taking care of the football will be at a premium. Jordan Love, okay, so last 2 weeks, Jordan Love he's been good at not throwing interceptions. However, I think we could all agree too, there's been a couple throws that have made you pucker up a little bit, like, ooh, when you're watching it live, you make that noise or something like that. It's like, oh, kind of got lucky there. Or what are you doing? Throwing it in double coverage right there. Can't do that tonight against Detroit because you got some ball hawkers in that secondary that like to make some picks, like Joseph. Okay, taking care of the football tonight, Jordan Love. Taking care of the football is going to be very important. Very important. Yeah, Kirby Joseph, 7 picks this year. Brian Branch has got 4 picks. Of all those interceptions, 11 of them coming from those 2 guys. Take care of the football in the passing game. Don't turn the ball over. Don't give Detroit any extra offensive possessions. Can't do it. Can't do it. That's going to be a key. But on the flip side, Green Bay's got to figure out a way to create some turnovers. Green Bay's defense has to figure out a way to create some turnovers. And not only just create turnovers, because we've seen Jared Goff throw some picks, and they still come away with wins. So he has got, the Packers have got to figure out a way to get those interceptions, like the Texas game, right? Back in early November, where he threw 5 picks. Lions still won 26-23. So if you get those interceptions, if you are able to force some turnovers from the Lions, from Jared Goff, turn those turnovers into points. Make those turnovers, convert them into points. Come away with something. Use it. Take care of the football on your side. Don't turn the ball over when you're on offense. No stupid interceptions from Jordan Love. Defensively, try to create some havoc. Try to create some turnovers. When you look at the passing chart from the Lions and Packers game earlier on in November, Jared Goff's passing chart was like a ton across the middle. there was just a couple throws to the sidelines. One of them was a touchdown pass on that 4th down touchdown pass. And there was only a couple that was like 10 yards, over 10 yards. They get the ball out quick. They get the ball out across the middle to their guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, to Sam Laporta. You're going to have Jameson Williams. I mean, they get them into their playmakers' hands. Then you got the threat of a Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery in the backfield, and those guys can be effective in the pass game, especially Gibbs. You might have to take some risks defensively in this game. Maybe you play a little more pressure coverage, man-on coverage, a little bit closer. We know Green Bay likes to play a little zone. And no Jair tonight absolutely hurts that. But if they want to limit the quicker passing game and try to get a little pressure on Jared Goff, you may have to play a little aggressive coverage. But that also puts a premium. I mean, this front, yes, you're going up against a fantastic offensive line. I know Taylor Decker's going to be missing the game in that. But Sewell might be the best right tackle in the league. I mean, he's just dominant. So if I'm Green Bay, I'm trying to figure out ways, who's my best pass rushers, and you're trying to move him around. If it's Rashawn Gary, maybe you don't line him up against Sewell the whole time. Try to figure out ways to get your best pass rushers in a position to get after the quarterback, but get after the quarterback quickly. Whether it's coming up the middle, going to the other side. You have to be able to get quick pressure on Goff and not let him be comfortable back there and just, set hut, couple seconds, ball's out. Whether that's, maybe getting a little bit pressure, trying to get the receivers off their routes a little bit, trying to delay it. I mean, a second can make a world of difference here. Timing wise, it can make a difference. But that's why for some of my players, the players who gotta have a game, I'm looking at Quay Walker again. He has put together back-to-back weeks of fantastic football. Gets the Dolphins tied for the team in pressures. I have to imagine we're going to see Quay Walker maybe pressuring the quarterback again tonight. That Jeff Hafley is going to try to get him pressuring the quarterback a little bit more. Maybe that's coming up the middle, trying to get Jared Goff off his mark. I got to imagine Quay Walker is going to be a part of this game plan. Now, can Quay Walker, the question is, can Quay Walker put together another solid game for the 3rd straight week in a row? Can he do it? Still an unknown. But I look at him as a guy that's got to have a game, whether it's getting after the quarterback, whether it's taking down Gibbs and Montgomery, in the running game, meeting them in the hole and taking them down, not allowing those guys, those running backs, to hit the edge and run it upfield for big gains. Not allowing them, if you hit them in the hole, not allowing them to get a couple more yards. You hit them in the hole, you take them down. They don't get a couple more yards after contact. They go down right there. They're big playbacks. So I know we've been talking a lot about the passing offense with Jared Goff and that. But this is what makes this Lions offense too so dangerous and at times so unpredictable. Is like, okay, you got an efficient, solid passing game with Goff and St. Brown and Sam Laporta and such. But Gibbs and Montgomery back there, man, you want to talk about a two-headed monster with those two? Gibbs, 973 yards. He's averaging 6 yards per carry this year. He's got 10 touchdowns, 81.1 yards per game. Montgomery, he's got 11 touchdowns, and he's also got 720 rushing yards. He's averaging 4.3 yards per carry, 60 yards a game. You want to talk about a little power, a little speed in there? Lions have one of the best running back duos in the entire league. We want to see how well this run defense actually has been playing? Here you go. Well, how do you help out your run defense, though, too? By controlling the clock. Offensively controlling the clock. Getting your own running game established. Josh Jacobs. He's my pick on the offensive side for the dude who's got to have a game. Because I think so much of what the Packers want to do on offense and the success of the Packers offense is so predicated on the running game. I don't think it was by a happy accident even last year when the Packers went on that run. In that second half, that led them to the postseason. What was a big reason of it? Yes, Jordan Love was playing incredibly well and playing at a high level and maybe the best quarterback. But Aaron Jones was rushing for over 100 yards a game too. They got that running game going when Aaron Jones got back and healthy. That kind of kicked off this entire offense. Same with this year. This Packers offense runs with that running game by establishing a run, the threat of the run there. Josh Jay and controlling that clock. Green Bay's got to jump out to a lead, I feel like, in this game. Now, the thing is, the Lions aren't going to panic. Let's say tonight, Packers take the opening kick and they come away with a touchdown. Lions ain't going to fret. It's not going to intimidate them. But I feel like for Green Bay, they can't get in a shootout. They've got weapons. There's no question about it. They could put up points, but I don't think they could get into a shootout because it takes away from what they've done so well offensively this year, and that's controlling the clock. That's running the football. Taking time off that clock. I want to see this offense continue to do that. Having success early on in downs, in the early downs, first and second, not having negative yards. We've talked about penalties on this team and the lining up on offsides and false starts. You're going to go to a hostile environment. It's going to be loud, okay? It's going to be loud. You cannot afford to have stupid penalties tonight that back you up further and make it harder for your offense to pick up first downs or to score touchdowns. You got to play fundamentally sound football tonight. No mistakes. So to kind of put it all together, because I know I'm just kind of going all over the place there with different matchups and different keys to victory. Offensively, to kind of wrap it up in a nice bow. Offensively, my player that's got to have a game tonight is Josh Jacobs, controlling the clock. You know what? He might rush for 60 yards, 50 yards, something similar to what he did against Miami. But he had over 100-yard scrimmage in passing game too. He's the guy that sets the tone. Have success running the game, controlling the clock, coming away with touchdowns. Starts with Josh Jacobs. If you're on the offense, don't turn the ball over. You got a ball-hawking back-end secondary with the Lions. No stupid throws. No throwing it into double, triple coverage. Make good reads. Make good decisions if you're Jordan Love. Do not turn that ball over. Control that clock. Win in the red zone. You have been good in the red zone the last couple weeks. You need to be good tonight in the red zone again. Coming away with touchdowns. So controlling the clock, touchdowns, no turnovers. Defensively, you got to somehow create turnovers. If you could steal some extra possessions, got to come away with it. And on the flip side, offensively, if you get those turnovers, if your defense hands you a turnover, do something with it. Because Detroit's already proven they'll throw 5 interceptions and still win a game. So if you get that turnover, if your defense hands you a turnover, you better use it. But defensively, try to figure out to get turnovers. If you can get your hands on the ball, come away with it. Try to manufacture that. Try to get some pressure on Jordan Love or Jared Goff. You might have to move Rashawn Gary around a little bit. If he's your best pass rusher, you might have to move him around a little bit so he's not always matched up against Sewell on the right side. Try to get that it's got to be quick pressure too, early pressure. Green Bay's not a team that blitzes a lot. When you look at the blitz numbers, they're a team that does not blitz a whole lot. Will they blitz more tonight to try to get after Goff early? I wouldn't be surprised. But somehow you got to generate that pressure. It's a good offensive line, even though they're banged up and they're missing Taylor Decker. It's a good offensive line. Kenny Clark's a dude that's got to have a game tonight too, trying to get that pressure up the middle. If you can get pressure up the middle early against a quarterback like Jared Goff and trying to get him to move side, you could do that. But my guy that's got to have a game tonight, he's got to put together his third week in a row of some dang good football, and that's Quay Walker. Because Quay Walker might be that guy that's bringing pressure up the middle. Quay Walker might be that guy that's asked to go get after the quarterback. But he's also going to be responsible for Gibbs and Montgomery. And if they hit that edge, don't let them get upfield. Bring them down. Use your speed sideline to sideline, Quay Walker. Make some plays. Here's an opportunity for Quay Walker. For all the talk, we've been giving him praise for the last 2 weeks. Xavier McKinney, high praise, saying best middle linebacker of the game. Could be. You have an opportunity tonight to show it. Showcase why your teammate thinks you could be the best middle linebacker in the game. Show off your athleticism. Show off your speed. He's going to be a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if Jeff Hafley's like, 7, we need you. You're going to be going after the quarterback at times, but you're going to be responsible for slowing down that running game. And if you get that guy, if you meet Gibbs, if you meet Montgomery in the hole, or you get to the edge, take him down. Don't let him pick up extra yardage. And if you can hold the Lions to field goals instead of touchdowns when they hit the red zone, that's a huge win. Lions are one of the better teams. They're the highest scoring team in the league. Better teams in the red zone. If you can limit them to just field goal attempts, that is a huge win for your team. So defensively, try to generate that pressure. Slow down Gibbs and Montgomery. You might have to play a little aggressive coverage with your corners if they want to employ a quicker passing game, because we know Goff and the Lions, at least in the last game against the Packers, they utilized the middle of the field a lot. Getting the ball to their playmakers in space. You might have to play a little aggressive with your coverage and keep them out of the end zone. I know it's a little easier said than done, and try to force those turnovers. Try to give your offense extra possessions. Get off the field. If you're at a 3rd and 9, a 3rd and 11, 3rd and 7, dude, get off the field. Don't let them get like if it's like 3rd and 8 and they pick up 7, they're going to go for it on 4th and 1. That's going to happen. So if you get into a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, make it 4th and 8, 4th and 9. Because you know how aggressive Detroit's going to be. Okay? Match that aggressiveness. You know that if it's 4th and 1 on their own 40, they're going to go for it. Match that aggressiveness. Don't play scared. Don't play, little safe at times. You're going to have to match the aggressiveness that Detroit plays, both in terms of game planning, but also on the field. Physical football. I could see tonight being a very physical, chatty game between these two. I could see it being physical on the field. I could see it being, a little trash talk here and there. And I could see it being an insane chess match between the play callers. This has the makings of being a fantastic game. As a Packers fan, I wish it would be a dominant blowout for the Packers, make me feel a little comfortable, but it's going to be a good one. All right, prediction time. I'm going to go kind of out of left field on this prediction. 31-27, Packers win after they recover the onside kick attempt by the Lions at the end of the game. All right, let's take a quick break. We're going to bring in Brandon Berg. We've got college football we're going to talk about. We're going to talk a little Brewers baseball and top 5 college rivalry trophies. That's all coming up. Family owned and operated, Toyson Ford is proud to serve the drivers of the Chippewa Valley with some of the most popular vehicles around Wisconsin and the country. They're committed to giving drivers from across the area the best in customer service with a top-notch selection of brand new vehicles to choose from, as well as an extensive inventory of pre-owned crossover, SUV, and trucks. Plus, with their expert finance, service, and parts centers in-house, they strive to be your one-stop dealership for all of your automotive needs. Visit them today at 1000 Chippewa Crossing Boulevard in Chippewa Falls. Brandon Berg is now joining me, and we're going to talk a little baseball. Jeff, a little bit earlier had texted this. So does Willy Adames not want to play for the Brewers, or the Brewers just could not afford him if he goes to the Yankees or the Dodgers? How do teams compete with that kind of money in the future? We seem to lose a lot of good players just because we can't afford them. Would a salary cap help in Major League Baseball or hurt Major League Baseball? Pretty soon it's just going to be the Yankees and the Dodgers show. Well, Yeah, he can't afford them. 2, there will never be a salary cap in baseball anymore.
Players will never agree to that. Owners will never agree to that.
No. Some owners might. But the more influential ones.
Right. It's one of those things where you can't kind of put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, football, basketball, hockey all have it, but, baseball hasn't had it for so long that they're not going to suddenly do it.
Right, because if you wonder why wouldn't baseball do that, salaries would go down then at some, players don't want the salaries to go down.
Right.
So.
The one thing I think would be interesting, and again, there would be certain owners that would not be in favor of this, would be a salary floor.
Yeah, that's what the NFL kind of has too, where you have to spend a certain amount of money. I think it's like through a 5-year period or 3-year period, or you get penalized.
Right.
So.
Right. That would, because there are, obviously we can look at what's going on with Oakland, but there are certain owners that just don't spend, or at least maybe as much as they could to be a little bit more competitive. For them, it's kind of profits over wins, but that is honestly a salary floor is something I would be interested in.
I would too.
It's not you're not going to have a salary floor of $150 million, but you're going to get all these. You're not going to get a team with a $28 million payroll or whatever Oakland had here recently, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. So I think I don't want to speak for him, but I think Willie Adames would love to play for the Brewers again. It's just that he can't offer him what these other teams can offer.
It might not be close.
Right.
Like it's not like we're talking about a difference of $1 million a year over 6 years or something like that.
Especially if he is that Plan B option for teams outside of Juan Soto.
Right, and a lot of teams are looking at him too as he could be a shortstop, but he's it sounds like he said hey, in the right situation he'll play third base, he'll maybe even play second base. Like he's willing to go somewhere where maybe he has to change positions and maybe ultimately move to third base is best for him because his defense. Last year did kind of take a little bit of a hit, just with some of what the advanced metrics say, and just naturally that's going to happen when you get older anyway.
Right.
We all lose a step or two when we get older, but he's still.
Unless you're Tom Brady.
Yeah. Well,
a little bit there, but still, he's still ruined quarterbacks for everybody.
Right. He just. It's one of those things where, all things being equal, he probably would stay, but all things, unfortunately, aren't equal.
Exactly. What about, so I know I shouldn't be shocked if it does happen, but, you hear the Dodgers and Juan Soto, and, if that were to happen, I'm like, for crying out loud, I don't know if I can watch baseball then. But, and maybe it's already gone too far down where they can't do it. Should Major League Baseball have done something with deferred money? Where teams can't defer.
It might be something they do in the future because this hasn't really been an issue before. We've seen teams do it. Obviously, the Bobby Bonilla example is kind of the example where the Brewers have done it. The Brewers have done it.
Yep.
They're paying Lorenzo.
They're still paying Ryan Braun, too.
And Lorenzo Cain.
Yeah.
They're going to be paying Christian Yelich after, he's retired.
Yep.
But it's not significant.
Mm-hmm.
Where, and maybe, and honestly, it's one of those things where maybe, you just kind of tip your hat to the Dodgers because no one's ever really thought about doing it at this level.
Mm-hmm.
That money now, it's kind of the idea of when you look at football and you look at teams always pushing money down the road, and it's something the Vikings did a lot when Kirk Cousins was around, just because you're trying to obviously he made a decent amount of money and you're trying to keep yourself a little flexible, and it always frustrated him why do that? And I heard somebody explain it really well, where they said $2 million 2 years from now is not the same as $2 million now when you factor in. Generally, the salary cap every year is going up.
Right.
So when you have $210 million to spend, $2 million versus when you have $230 million to spend, what $2 million is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of, I think, the way the Dodgers are looking at this is that, you look 10, 15, 20 years down the road, with how much money it is for, say, Ohtani or whatever, in theory, that should not, it's not as much as it would be if you paid him right now.
Right.
But with that said, I agree. I think at some point you need to look at that because otherwise then you're going to have, that's going to be a real issue.
Right. And for the player sense, at that point, they may be towards the end of their career and be like, hey, I'm getting all this money, and if I still continue to play, I'm probably not playing at the highest level at my peak, but I'm getting a lot more money.
Yeah. And if you're already set up well enough now where
because he's getting endorsements too,
right?
And all that,
it's not like he's starving for money,
right?
But it is something I think at some point they're going to have to look at because otherwise, you're right. Then you're going to have situations like this,
right? I don't know if this is going to be a part of your Festivus coming up here. By the way, Festivus, December 23rd.
Yes!
VFW Post 305. That we are officially less than 3 weeks away from this. So stop on by.
I do have my number one.
Okay. You do
and
have
it
your
is number one with a bullet.
So I'm going to ask you this, and if it is, just cut me off. The Golden Bat thing.
It is not.
Okay.
But it might be.
Okay, so you're not in favor of this?
I am not.
Okay.
And maybe this is my fault because I will say last week at Thanksgiving I was talking with my mom and I actually gave Rob Manfred credit for something. And maybe this is just me getting bit by that. But what a gimmicky, dumb idea. Like,
go off, Brandon. Come on, man.
Man, you know what? I mean, we'll see how festive it goes. If you poke and prod me the right way that day, maybe I will. But it's just like.
Do you buy what he said that it's gaining traction at these meetings and that?
Maybe it's gaining traction because he's telling guys, hey, you know, it'd be a really good idea.
Right.
You know,
and more people are talking about it, but it's not necessarily they're in favor of it, sort of thing. You know what I mean? It's like that play on words a little bit.
I mean, he is a former lawyer, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So,
it's like, I feel like, okay, I use this example. My 7-year-old would probably love it. Because, you know, it's like, oh, I'll just, you know, insert. It's like a video game. Like, I'm going to put my best batter in there.
Yeah,
and all that sort of stuff, you know?
Ohtani's coming up.
Like, right. But, like, for me, where I struggle with this is, like, part of it is like, okay, let's paint the scenario. It's Game 7, full count, bases are loaded, your ninth hitter's up. Usually not your best hitter, right?
Right.
And then, cool, you can sub, whatever. But I like that moment where that ninth hitter...
You get that chance.
Gets that chance, and they get that walk-off, and, you know, it's like...
Those moments are great when they happen organically.
Yes.
And remember back to the last WBC when we had Ohtani
and Trout.
And that was an organic moment for the final at bat of the tournament. Like what made that moment so cool was it happened organically.
Yep.
And this is the thing, like I've brought up, and it's completely unrelated, but I think the example kind of has some relation to, like, in NASCAR with their playoff series. Like, people always look at, like, the 1992 Winston Cup Series points chase as, like, the greatest of all time because you went to the last race with 5 drivers with a legitimate chance to win the championship. And that was under when it was just you race all year and whoever has the most points wins. Mm-hmm. It just so happened that was such a great year where you had 5 drivers going in the last race that had a chance for it. It was so great because it just organically happened that way. Mm-hmm. Now with the way they do it, it's manufactured drama.
Right.
You know, no matter what happens, to me it would be like if you play the Super Bowl. And no matter who is winning, at the end of the third quarter, suddenly, you know, it became you change the score so it was a 1-score game.
Right.
The Chiefs could be up 50-0 on somebody, but you get to the start of the fourth quarter, the Chiefs are only up 20-13 now. What's going to happen? It's like it's just manufactured drama, and to me that takes away from it. And to me that's a little bit what this is. Yeah, would it be fun at first? But yeah, maybe. Mm-hmm. But I'm with you. I like that opportunity that. You know, hey, it's a Sal Frelick that maybe is up in that spot instead of a Christian Yelich. Now, that may
look at what happened. I mean,
exactly.
Sal Frelick hit that.
That's what makes it so fun. So you never know.
Right. Exactly. So that's why I don't like it because I like those moments.
Yeah. Imagine 2011. Like you don't have the Nigel Morgan moment. Maybe it's a Ryan Braun or Prince Fielder moment.
It's funny you say that, Brandon, because that's the example I used yesterday.
Yeah.
I know I keep bringing up that game, but like I was there, and I remember me and my buddies were like, Morgan, just don't screw it up. Because Braun was up next, and Braun was on that tear.
Right.
And you're like, just don't screw it up. Don't screw anything up. Get up.
Yeah.
Let Braun get up. But then Morgan hits it up, and it was awesome.
Yeah. And someone else had that moment. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, it's just gimmicky to me. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just a gimmicky, I don't say a cash grab, but attention grab.
I like this example. Timmy G says, agree, is Aaron Boone anybody without the walk-off?
Right, yeah.
That moment.
2003 for the Yankees in the ALCS against the Red Sox.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. You don't have that moment.
Let somebody be a hero.
Right.
Unfortunately, Brewers fans can look at David Freese.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Or Chris
that postseason for David Freese
right,
was just ridiculous.
Instead of like every time it's like, well, we're gonna screw this the same person up, and yeah, it's great that Ohtani will get some ninth inning at bats when they're trailing or something, but like no, it just screams gimmick to me.
So like my question I was throwing out yesterday, like I'm not in favor of it, but like could this scenario happen? Like what would have to happen? So say it's again bottom ninth. The tying run is, or whatever, winning run's on third, but second and first is open. You're like, okay, we're going to put Ohtani up there. Say it's like sixth in the lineup. Ohtani comes up.
Walk him.
But, okay, but what if Ohtani was originally the seventh batter? You know what I mean? Like, can he bat back-to-back then?
Yeah.
And do you have a ghost runner? Do you have a base runner that goes for him?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, because you're right. I would say take your base.
Yeah,
but
take
then
your base.
What if his original at-bat was like the spot before?
Right. Like, is there only a certain window? Like, if you're hitting second, can you only hit like sixth or seventh or eighth technically in the lineup order? Or what? Yeah, you're right. It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if Rob Manfred knows.
Yeah. So, John says, good morning, Dan Brandon. I don't like the golden at-bat rule to me. It takes away hits from the players that are trying to stay on the team.
Right, so, yeah. Just give somebody that chance.
Yep. Yeah, there's been...
If it works out that way organically, great.
And like you said, organically, one of the images I went to is one of my favorite games I watched as a kid all the time, Game 7, Diamondbacks, Yankees, Luis Gonzalez up against Mariano Rivera.
Right.
Luis Gonzalez was a really good hitter. It just happened, and it worked out.
Right.
So, yeah, don't take away those moments.
Right.
I agree with you. I like how you said that, manufactured
drama.
It's
just manufactured drama. It's like, the more, it's the law of diminishing returns. The more something happens, the less enjoyment you're going to get out of it.
Right.
If the Brewers let's say the Brewers lose a series to the Cubs, and in every one of those games they have a chance to tie the game in the ninth, and William Contreras gets moved in that spot. It's just like, oh, well, this is happening again. Like, it's not, to me, it's just manufactured. Like, it's, I don't like it.
Right. I mean, for crying out loud at this point, Harry Rowengartner probably never would have batted in Rookie of the Year.
Right.
And never would have, stolen that base and thrown errors and scored and all that. So I had to throw some sort of base. I was trying to think of maybe Jake Taylor probably wouldn't hit in Major League.
He
at
might
that
not. Would Serrano hit in that spot?
That's a good point. See, we could go a bunch of different ways on this one. Receive or defer? This will be the last year of the Luke Fickell era coming up in 2025. There's some damning stuff coming out. I don't know if you saw.
There is.
Like from high school coaches, they're not happy. It's giving me Gary Anderson vibes a little bit.
A little bit. I'm going to still say defer, though.
Okay.
I'm going to say he does enough next year, even though that schedule next year is tough.
Yeah.
I'm going to say he does enough next year. I'm not saying he's the guy, the forever coach, but I'm saying he does make it, just trying to play the odds here.
Right. I know there's some people on Colton Bartholomew. I just saw he posted it. I haven't had a chance to read it, but one argument, defenders or whatever you want to call them for Luke Fickell, said, well, he doesn't have his guys. Well, my counter to that is you look at some of the guys who did come over transfer and how many of them are already leaving.
Right. Yeah.
That to me is like, okay, his guys though that he brought over are already leaving.
Right. And I don't know if we're going to get into this anymore today. Beyond this, as far as talking about the Badgers.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I don't know, because otherwise then we can expand then.
No, let's expand now.
But it's just the one. And look, I'll be on record. I was all in favor of the hire. I don't think that just because Luke Fickell struggled, that means that getting rid of Paul Chris was a bad decision. I still think that move had to happen. But I don't think it's a great sign when it's 2 years in and you're trying to fundamentally change what you're doing. Like, obviously, the offense is going to change. He said so much in his press conference yesterday. The defense, it sounds like they're going to they're changing their personnel. Maybe going a little bit heavier on the D-line, which I think is a good move. I think both the things are the things you want to do. But when you're 2 years into somewhere and you're already saying, okay, well, we better change this. Like, that shows that maybe you didn't have the best vibe for it right off the bat.
Exactly.
And while it's good to have the ability to say, hey, we need to change this, it's not good that you have to.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned next year with the schedule, too, and, I'm trying to figure out what should the expectation be for next year because of that schedule. You don't have an offense coordinator right now. Who's the quarterback for next year?
Right, we don't know.
What
does the team look like? Obviously, there's just going to be significant turnover with transfer portal and and other stuff. So,
should the goal just be 6 wins to become bowl eligible?
Is it? And if so, that barring something crazy this offseason, this is going to be a very milquetoast feeling, I think, going into next year. Where you're just going to have a couple. Even just talking with obviously so many people I know that are Badger fans, you're just
right.
There's just no reason to be excited. You said we're still looking for that first signature win.
Right.
When you can't grab it, and they had the opportunities against Penn State, against Oregon, and then you to me, you play honestly your 3 worst games of the year against Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota. You can't do that.
No.
Like, even if you lose those games, you still got to beat. That trophy case is empty. You've got nothing.
Right.
Besides, I think they still have like the slab of bacon from the early days of the Minnesota Trophy. Like, and they play it again, they probably lose that too.
Right.
Like, right now it's tough. It's an uphill climb, big time for Luke Fickell.
I think the frustrating part too is like this is defense played incredibly well against Oregon, and then you followed up by 44 points against Nebraska.
Yeah, they just never couldn't. They could never put together a game in all 3 phases. And against Nebraska, the offense was good. And then you come back in that Minnesota game, and the defense helped them hang around. Like, they weren't bad, but the offense just couldn't do anything. Like, they just could never play offense and defense at a high level at the same time, especially against a halfway decent to good to great team.
Right. And then, because this was from the Athletic, I saw some of the quotes from like high school football coaches,
right?
With the recruiting,
Jesse Temple,
yeah. And there's like some coaches are like, yeah, they're not keeping the good players in states. You heard some players even talking about they didn't feel like they had a relationship with their coaches and all that. I'm like, I am getting Gary Anderson vibes again with this whole thing.
Right, because remember, that was the big thing when Barry Alvarez came, was build a wall around Wisconsin, keep the Wisconsin kids, and that was something that Brett Bielema continued to do.
Right.
And, Paul Chryst did a better job of, even though, obviously the recruiting at the end for Chryst was, we've heard those stories about how that kind of went awry, but still, like it did seem like there was that emphasis.
Right. So I don't know if that's going to be something that changed, but it's really weird because remember that like before he even coached a game, I remember seeing billboards,
right? Yeah,
all over, like even right here, yeah, and like all this, and just like okay, they're really focused, and apparently not.
Right.
Was it all talk? Was it all a marketing ploy? Because if you got high school football coaches saying, yeah, no, not hearing anything, or they're not doing a really good job, and one coach said, I think we're a complete afterthought. I don't think they are really concerned. I really believe they have focused their attention on national recruiting. Maybe we don't have the best players, and maybe they think the best players are elsewhere, but I beg to differ because I could give you 20 players right now that if they were on their team, they'd have the same record or they'd be better in my opinion. And like there was one, I think it was Northern Illinois, their entire offensive line was like all Wisconsin kids.
Right, the Thomas Hammond connection, who was a running back coach with Badgers. Obviously he gets it.
Yeah. So, I don't know, but
yeah.
And to be fair, there are other coaches. There's one coach here that says everybody's going to say they're doing a poor job recruiting. It's not the case at all. Coach Fickell has great energy. He's a terrific coach. Each staff is looking for a game changer and what they feel is going to be your best opportunity to develop into turning a program around.
And I have seen examples of like their coaches kind of bopping around the state, seeing like different high school coaches, especially even in this area, kind of saying, hey, thanks for stopping by, whoever from the Badger staff. So I think it's just going to depend, but coach to coach. But now we're kind of be able to notice trends.
Yep. Yeah, and like one coach said they were really good early, but now it's kind of transitioned to where, sort of thing. So
we'll see. I mean, and honestly, this is a gigantic month of December for Luke Fickell for them not having a game.
Right.
When you factor in, okay, who's the offensive coordinator going to be? That's going to have an impact on, maybe who ultimately might end up transferring because maybe it's not a fit.
Right.
Whoever they bring, if they bring in someone from the outside as a coordinator, does that coordinator have a quarterback they already have in mind that maybe they bring in as that transfer?
And the unique thing too with college, you can make those lateral jumps, whereas like the NFL,
you can go be an offensive
it's a little bit
coordinator
hard
from one place to another.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like the NFL where it has to be an upgrade.
Right. So I mean, you have that, but I don't know. Like, is there a guy out there that is like in a good spot, be willing to come over to Wisconsin that might be in a sitting duck type of year?
That's tough.
Or a head coach that wants to go back to being an offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly to Ohio State,
Gus
or
Malzahn.
Gus Malzahn. Yep, going to Florida State now. So
yeah,
I don't know.
That's going to be very interesting because it just never, and we've talked about this, it just never seemed like Longo was on the same page with Fickell, which is interesting because like you kind of knowing the kind of offenses that Longo runs, like you kind of knew what you were getting into. Maybe he figured they'd be a little bit more run heavy given his past, because they really weren't, but like it just never seemed like it worked, especially for like a defensive guy like Luke Fickell. You thought when you think of generally, what kind of offenses do defensive coaches like?
Right. I don't know. Yeah, is it fair to say, because you and I are the same age, I don't remember. I mean, my first memories of Badger football were Barry Alvarez, just like ones I can remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember heading into an offseason like this. Yes, there were coaching changes and all that, but like where you're like, oh, crap.
Right.
It's like you don't feel good about anything.
Right now, they just don't have the benefit of the doubt. Like, you can go out there and say they land some big-time transfers. Like, yeah, okay, that's cool. But, like, you're not going to get the same energy that you had the last 2 years for maybe some of those type of players.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just more of a track record. Like, even going back to, the last time Badgers didn't make a bowl was 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And that was under Barry Alvarez. And, yeah, that was under Barry Alvarez. Like, but still, like, you were also coming off 2 straight Rose Bowls. So I think maybe there's a little bit more of a grace period. Like, okay, this was just a bad year. This is just a down year.
Yep, I agree.
Whereas this is, you're just kind of wondering, because it's kind of straying from the blueprint, you got people kind of wondering, okay, is this just kind of going awry as opposed to a blip in the radar?
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. So
we'll see.
Well, all right, let's take a quick break, and Brandon and I will be back to finish off this episode of the podcast with our top 5 plus college football rivalry trophies. That's coming up after these quick words. Are you hosting family and friends for the holiday season this year? Hey, that can be pretty stressful trying to figure out what to prepare, who likes what to eat, and so on. Well, you can take some of that stress off your plate by simply visiting Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. Whether you will be tackling the cooking yourself or you need some help with preparing meals this holiday season, Hy-Vee can help you out in so many different ways. Whether you want to shop and save some money or you need help with some catering, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire has you covered. So stop on in and get started for your holiday preparations today. All right, we are back with the next part of this episode of the Man Cave Podcast. Top 5 plus with our good buddy, Mr. Brandon Berg. This was a topic that you had thrown out a couple weeks ago, and it's kind of relevant right now because, we had some games and still at least one more coming up here. Top 5 rivalry trophies, college football edition. So we had some of those games in the books already. Obviously, Wisconsin, Minnesota with Paul Bunyan's axe. You had Auburn and Alabama, rivalry game going on.
Georgia Tech.
Yep, exactly. We got Army Navy coming up and such. So this was an idea from Brandon from a couple weeks ago, and we said, remember that one? Luckily, I kind of remembered it. You remembered it. So that's what we're going to be doing for our top 5 right now. Is the top 5. Not the games themselves, it's the trophies.
The physical trophy you can win.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any honorable mentions?
I do.
All right. So I don't, so I'll let you go first.
I have 3.
Jeez, of course you do.
I always find a way. But number 1, I guess they're not ranked, but I have the Apple Cup, which is Washington State. Obviously plays off the state's rich history of apple production.
Mm-hmm.
I have the Wagon Wheel,
okay,
which is Akron and Kent State. Play for a wagon wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And the Golden Hat, which is the Red River rivalry between Texas and Oklahoma,
mm-hmm.
which it's a golden hat, like a golden cowboy hat.
Right.
And
yep.
there's like a famous picture of like Baker Mayfield wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just a gold hat.
Right.
So those are my 3.
Those are your 3. Now, before we get into it, it's not just Division 1 either.
Nope. Mine will expand.
Mm-hmm. So we've got... We got that. I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
Because since you just went with your honorable mention, so I'm going to go first here, and I'm going to start off kind of boring a little bit, but I'm going to go Paul Bunyan's axe at number 5, just because it's a huge axe, and you're entrusting college athletes to carry around a huge axe, and I'm just waiting for somebody to do something or really get hurt with it and that. But yes, it's a little bit of a homer pick here with the Paul Bunyan axe, but. I mean, I like the lore of it with Paul Bunyan and such. So yeah, it's a little bit of a homer pick and a feel good pick there. But that's my number 5.
Now that within the last 5-6 years, we've seen the rise of flag planting in the middle of the field. When does someone plant the axe in the middle of the field?
That's a good question. What is your thoughts on the flag planting, by the way?
I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I mean, my feeling with stuff like that is always, if you know how to do it, don't lose.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it would be a little bit different with that. I feel like there's a little bit more care, obviously, in the trophy itself. So I feel like that may be, some may take that as being disrespectful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
because you could break it. I mean, we don't know the tensile strength of the axe.
Right. No, you're right. So Yeah, and honestly, I'll just give you a little bit of a tease. My next 4 are very, how do I want to say this? Weird. So
I've got some in there too. So
okay,
yeah.
so like this is probably like, I'll be honest, this might be the only one that some people recognize.
Yes.
So, and I still got D1 teams on here. It's just
there's some good ones.
Yep.
Like if you ever look into this, there's some good ones.
Yep. So, but I had to start off. I got to go generic Paul Bunyan's X, number 5.
My number 5, and what I think I might do is, if I give you the rivalry, can you tell me what it is?
No, I would not be good at that.
Okay. My number 5 is the Platypus Trophy, which is the trophy that is played between Oregon and Oregon State.
Okay.
Beavers, ducks.
Yeah.
You kind of combine it as a bit of a platypus.
That is actually really good.
You look at the trophy, and it is. It's very unique. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
They're playing for a platypus, but when you combine those animals together, what do you kind of get? It kind of looks like a platypus.
They should try to make an animal like that.
Oh, there's a platypus.
Well, there is.
You ever heard of the duck-billed platypus?
Yeah, no, I did. Oh my god. Your reaction to that was probably even better. Oh yeah.
All right. But yeah, it's also known as the Civil War. That's the name of the actual rivalry itself, and they play for the Platypus Trophy.
Oh my god, I'm not going to live that one down, am I?
No, you're not. I got to find a way for the rest of our days to reference platypi.
Oh my gosh. All right. My number 4 on my list here. It is a D1. I don't know if we need to really clarify it or not, but I'm going to the state of Texas for this one. It is SMU versus TCU, the Iron Skillet.
I almost put the Iron Skillet as an honorable mention. I like that.
It literally is just an iron skillet on there. Now, I was trying to do some research, and they said there's like different versions of it. Like each school kind of has a different version of it, but it's been around for over like 100, or not quite 100 years, almost 100 years there in the 40s. But literally, like when you think of a Dutch iron cast, skillet, that's what it pretty much is. That's what it looks like. It's nothing fancy. It's an iron skillet. So
it's just funny, the visual of seeing college students walking around with a big skillet.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Texas, isn't it? That's very Texas.
Yep.
Gotcha. My number 4, it is the rivalry trophy with Cincinnati and Louisville.
Okay.
The Keg of Nails.
Nice.
Obviously, if people don't know, that's a pretty intense rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
But what can I tell you about the Keg of Nails? It is exactly what it sounds like it is. It is a keg of nails. It's a big wooden keg. Picture like the thing that people would go over Niagara Falls in.
Mm-hmm.
Started in the 1920s, and the trophy, the teams don't play in the same conference anymore. But in 2022, the teams played each other in the Fenway Bowl, and they actually put the trophy on the line, which is pretty cool.
Right. Okay, I didn't know if you had.
No, that was kind of an abrupt ending, but
right.
It goes back. Yeah, it goes back to the 1920s.
All right. My number 3. I'm going to the state of Arizona for this one. The Territorial Cup. So this literally looks like something your grandparents probably had back in the day, or like an old school Victorian like cup. Like, I don't know if it's real silver or anything like that, but it was first awarded in 1899. I believe, too, making it the oldest rivalry trophy in college sports. The cup was actually lost for 80 years before it was found in 1980 in the basement of a Tempe church. A replica of the cup is handed out on the field every year. The actual cup is housed in special places on each campus, depending upon the winning team. It looks like a silver. It's got like 4 handles on there and such, so it's just like, It looks ridiculous. It's just like an old school antique cup. But yeah, that's why I'm going with the very weird ones out there.
No, I like that.
So.
I like that. I'm a little concerned. I'm kind of hoping our 1 and 2 aren't similar. We've been far apart, so I like that.
Yeah.
My number 3 is Paul Bunyan's axe.
Okay.
You kind of explained it, but 6-foot tall axe. We've all seen it. It's been in Wisconsin, Minnesota is the longest played. Or is the most played, rivalry in college football. having the chance to kind of be really close to it, being on, and I've taken done photography at games and stuff. It's just really cool. Like, obviously, it's something that matters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's cool. It's a gigantic axe, and it is the best axe trophy. There's other ones out there,
Yeah.
but it's the best.
I don't think we'll have the same top two.
I hope we don't, but I don't know. Okay,
Because my next one, I'm going to the FCS.
I am. Mine will be 2, but
Okay.
let's see here.
Chief Cato?
No.
Okay.
No. Okay, so we're good. Okay.
Yeah, all right. So Chief Cato, Northwestern State versus Stephen F. Austin. Have you heard about this one?
I'm not.
It's literally a 7'6", 330-pound wooden statue of an Indian chief. That is awarded. The teams have been playing for it since 1961. Why the statue, the Cato tribe helped settle the areas in which both schools are located. So it's when you think of like a cigar.
Yeah.
That's what it is essentially. So it's over
Nice.
7 foot tall, 330-pound wooden statue.
Nice.
So that's my number 2.
Okay. My number 2 goes to the state of Nevada.
Okay.
You do not have that then?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
My number 2 is for the rivalry between Nevada and UNLV. It is the Fremont Cannon.
Okay. I honestly had that in my top 5, but I took it out for the cup.
Okay.
So I guess that would have been an honorable mention for me.
Okay, so yeah, but the Fremont Cannon is a 545-pound
Yeah.
replica howitzer
Yeah.
that honors explorer John C. Fremont's 19th century expedition through Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Started donated in 1970. It's one of the most expensive trophies in college football, and yes, it does work, but it has not been shot. It's been silent since 2000. So
Yeah.
but the Fremont Cannon, it's a gigantic cannon.
It's a cannon. It's a
Come
cannon.
on, what's not to love?
I did have that. I changed it for the cup, so I guess that would have been my honorable mention if we wanted
Okay,
to.
yeah, no,
So-
we'll drop that in there. Okay, mine, yeah,
But my number 1 is actually at the D3 level.
excellent.
So we don't have the same then, I would
No,
say.
no, we don't. No, we
Okay,
don't.
So mine looks like something you and I could make. It is the Troll.
I saw the troll. When I was doing some research, I saw the troll. I like it.
Concordia, Moorhead, and St. Olaf. So not that far from us, actually.
just stay. Yeah, right.
But it is literally a troll on a log. Like if you took a log and you saw it a little bit, just to have a base. It's a troll. The troll has been awarded to the winner of the annual game since 1974. Supposedly, the troll actually was made in Norway over there. So it's not a troll like you think of, like the pink hair and all that. It actually is like probably more of the mythology type of troll on there, but literally looks like something that you and I would just put a doll or something and grab a piece of wood and glue it on the bottom, and then there you go. So the troll is number 1 for me.
All right.
Because I could see myself doing this for our golf outing.
Yes,
Something like that.
we need. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, my number 1. Now, I like this trophy. I like this game, but most importantly, this has the best name of any college football rivalry out there. This is an FCS one.
Okay.
Montana State.
I think I remember you mentioning this before.
The name of the series, the Brawl of the Wild.
Ooh, that is a good name.
The trophy, the Great Divide Trophy, which is over 300 pounds, and obviously it honors the fact that they're at the Continental Divide. I will show you a picture of it because it contains bears climbing a mountain at a football.
That is awesome. That is really awesome.
I remember it was a few years ago. Game Day went to the Brawl of the Wild game, and it was an awesome scene out in Montana. That it's snowing. It was awesome. And that's always that's been a very important game for FCS because both those teams are good. I think
Google the picture. That is awesome.
Yeah. I remember. Awesome. I think it was this year, I'm pretty sure it was this year where I was seeing reports because the weekend of the game there was a snowstorm that went through Montana, so one of the roads got shut down, and in Montana that's a big deal because you kind of only have a couple ways you can get somewhere.
Right.
But I don't know. I just love this trophy. It's just bears climbing up this mountain. There's a football up there. Honor. I always like trophies that honor something specific about the area.
Yep. That's a good one. That is a very good one. I like that one a lot. Well played.
It's been around since 2001. The series, it obviously
fairly new, really.
Yeah, it's still pretty new.
Yep.
And two things. One, since it started, the series is tied 11-11, which is good.
Yeah.
But
so
the school with the most wins during the period at the end of the 21st century gets to keep it forever.
Ooh, I really like that too.
So I'm sure then once 2100 rolls around, and
They'll have a new one or something
yeah,
like that.
I'm
So if
long
football's
off,
still around.
we're long off this earth. They'll just create something else.
That's so cool. I like that a lot.
So I like that builds to something too, where at some point, you know what, keeps these.
Yep,
But
I
yes,
like that. Solid pick. I think you might have won this top 5 with that one alone. So
It's only because we didn't do any rock paper scissors.
That's true. That's true. So, part of me is like, how can we need to create our own for something? I don't know what it is, but I think we need to create our sports talk version of one, like between you and I, with something where every year we get to, winner holds it for a year.
Oh, yeah.
What should we do?
I don't know.
I don't want to do just like pick'ems or anything like that. We got to do something.
Let's put some thoughts in this, because it's a bit like the Dandy Trophy, which was
Batman and Bigfoot arm wrestling.
Yep.
But yeah, maybe you know what? Let's put a deadline on this too. Let's come up with it by Festivus.
okay. Yeah, we can come up with some
and
ideas.
then annually at Festivus we award it for that.
Yeah.
For that following. Yeah, we'll come with it. Or if anybody's got an idea, hit us up. Hit us up. So. All right, good one there, Brandon. That was
good
awesome.
one, right? You too.
Yeah,
we had a lot of great ones to choose from. This was a fun topic.
This was fun.
This was a fun one to look into.
It was, because there was ones there too. I was like, I've never even heard of before. So.
Right, and there were so many others. I'm like, ooh, I like that one, but you got to rank.
So we only had one of the same ones,
and it was the obvious one.
Yep.
Like my thinking when on the show I alluded to it that. It's not an obvious one, number one, which it wasn't, but also, like, I just assumed, like, a lot of people might defer to, it'd be the axe, which I love the axe, but, like, maybe it's just because we're used to it. Like, if you're somewhere else in the country, you say, whoa, they got Paul Bunyan's axe, that's sweet. Like, it is, but, like, maybe we're just because we're used to it. Like,
I think so. So, all right, good stuff, man. Well, that's going to do it for us on this episode of the podcast. Don't forget to click that follow and subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review so others can find the podcast. Until next time, we'll talk to you on the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.